today's video, we're going to talk about workflow. In this video, we will deconstruct my workflow and walk through one of my favorite ways to write music. Let's get started. So step one for me is to find a sound that inspires me. It needs to be playable in the sense that I can control dynamics and timbre, ideally with velocity and maybe a little mod wheel. I'm using Ableton Live and a push-to hardware controller because A, I like grids, and B, it fits my very space-constrained desk. I have a desk with a lot of crap on it, not enough space for a 61 or a key keyboard. So we go with the push because it's 64 notes in a very small space. So sometimes I use synth-like sounds, but today I'm actually going to use a couple of samples. Those samples are going to combine related sounds in a way that I find interesting to sort of make a little custom instrument. I'm going to combine the sound from a sort of vintage bass guitar. Okay. And I'm going to combine that with a comping sort of tone that's made by taking a sample of a bass harmonic. It's like a pinched harmonic on a bass. There might be a Chapman stick, but I think it's a bass. And we take that sound, add a little delay, and a little phasing. And if I hold on the sustain pedal, and when we combine that with the sort of bass guitar sound, we get an instrument I'm inspired by. So that's what I use. Today I used this instrument, threw it together, and what I do basically is I just play and see what happens. I start a recording. I've got a friend who works in an audio studio. He does voiceovers for PBS and things like that. And he told me once, I watched him do it, he throws a DAT in, feeds it with a mix off of his soundboard, and basically records everything that happens from the moment the person who's going to be recorded walks into the studio. He records the greeting, hello, how are you? He's got live mics in the control room, mics in the recording booths, and everything gets recorded. And it's a safety net, but it's also a source of inspiration and ideas that happen, those little happy accidents. And so I try and do the same thing when I'm trying to write something new musically, right? Some software-based sequencers provide a feature where they're always sort of recording in the background, and you can retrieve those happy accidents and moments of inspiration that you might have missed in case you weren't recording. It just listens in the background. But you could simulate this. If your software doesn't do that, just start recording, turn off the metronome, and just play. Just noodle. Play for 10, 20, 30 minutes and see what happens. That's what I did today. I hit record, started playing with this sound that I found inspirational. And what I'm going to do here is going to play back that recording so you can sort of listen to the progression. And then when it's over, I'm going to show you how I go through it, pull out pieces that I find interesting, sort of play with those, manipulate them into clips, or I'll do one of them. Put some rhythm on top of it to give it a sort of a groove, and run with that. So it's by no means a done deal, but it's a really great way to mine your subconscious for ideas. What happens is, as you're playing, you're going to hear this. If you watch the entire stream, or the entire sort of stream of consciousness bit, you will start to see, as I'm playing, I sort of get these sort of stops and starts, but you'll hear sort of ideas that come around and then come around again. Rhythmic patterns and musical progressions. And I get into a place where I'm playing, roots with some embellishment, a little chord here and there. And finally, I get to this happy place with a chord progression and a rhythm I like. And that sort of evolves out of just sort of this musical masturbation, the playing by yourself, with yourself, whatever, for 20 to 30 minutes, and just recording the whole thing. I hope you enjoy it. I get a lot of fun. I get a lot of enjoyment and have a lot of fun doing this kind of recording. It turns into these little pieces that I file away and then end up pulling them out of my toolkit saying, okay, that's an interesting piece. Let me transpose that to match with this one. Let's put it together and start building pieces out of these little motifs. So have fun, and hope you enjoy it, and we'll talk again towards the end. Okay. Okay, so here we are at the end. All right. And so we've recorded this thing. We've sat there and played for 20 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever. And we've basically got this giant MIDI clip. And if you look at the velocities down here, you can tell where I really sort of got into it. You know, you're kind of hesitant and figuring out patterns and things like that. But when the groove starts to set in, that's what this whole sort of ramping up thing is. It's you getting into it, you achieving flow, basically. And eventually all my velocities are pinged at 127 because I'm pounding on the controller so hard. And hopefully you'll get to that place too, right? And that's where the mojo comes out. But we've got this recording. So now what do we do with it? Well, you listen to it. You go back to the beginning and you just play it. You have to go listen to what you did. Right? Go look at that clip as it's playing and see what you got here. And it may be crap. 90% of it may be crap, but there are some gems in there, right? There's some bits that you're gonna like. Let's take a look. All right. So what do we see in here? You start looking for patterns, right? You start flipping through and you go, oh, where's that? Oops, where's that piece that I want to, that sort of jumped out at me? I remember there were some moments in there where I just sort of lost myself in the moment. Right, so what is that? Let's look for, here's one, right? This looks like a pattern. Looks like I was jamming out to something here. Right, so we play this. All right, fine. So how do I grab that? Well, you just pull it out. You can either set a loop point over just this piece of the loop, or you can, actually go drag, select it all, copy it out, put it in a new loop, play with it. You may have to tweak the timing. You might have to clean it up a little bit, wrong notes or notes that you just want to change. That's okay. That's part of the creative process. But you go back and you look at this thing, this flow you've been in for 15 minutes or so, and you pull out the gems. You mine your own recording, right? So you keep looking for more. What else do we have in here? If we keep scrolling down, here's one, right? Here's the beginning of something here that sort of stuck out at me. I think this was the beginning of the chord progression I ended up sticking with. Yeah, this one got me going. So you basically go through the whole thing. You just look through, mining the stuff you want to keep. And basically when you're done, you pull those out and you've got little clips that you can work with. Right? And you'll squirrel those away. You don't have to make a song out of them now. You save these little bits in clips, put them in a folder somewhere, save them in your library, do whatever, export it as MIDI files. You save them. You pull them back in later. You start composing. You start compiling and building a composition out of all of these pieces. Maybe you have to shift them around in keys and times, and that's okay. And so what I did was I pulled out my little favorite bit of here. I didn't even pull it out. I just looped a section of the overall clip. I've just got this loop running here, right? And I just let it play. And I need a little rhythm on top of that, right? So I added some shaker. A little more shaker. And some conga. that needs a little something else. And so what I did is that's when you start layering more instruments on top of it, right? So I pulled the same MIDI clip, routed it to another instrument. This one's a mandolin, which gives me some nice high-end sort of sparkle on top of it. And then this is sort of what I ended up with. Now, I don't know if you can hear or not, or if you noticed, but that clip, it doesn't end in cleanly on 4/4, right? It's 4/4 through all these rows, through all these bars. It doesn't actually even start there, but it wraps over. Then there's a section of 6, and then a section of 7. And it's okay. When you're mining this stuff out, you don't have to pull out things that fit cleanly to the grid, because musically, interesting things happen when you throw in something that's, half a beat short or something like that. There's nothing. Don't be afraid of that. If you're mining things out of your clip, your sort of stream of consciousness session, and it doesn't align to the grid perfectly, that's okay. Just pull it out, save it, loop it, and listen to it, because something in 7 laid over something in 4 sounds pretty awesome sometimes. So check it out. Don't be afraid. All right. Really, that's about it. I'm just going to exit this video with this clip sort of cleaned up and playing a bit, loop it through. I hope you've enjoyed this stream of consciousness sort of deconstruction. It's my absolute favorite way to write music, is to sit there and basically musically masturbate for half an hour, record the whole thing with my musical porn sort of metaphor. I probably shouldn't do this. It's a family-friendly channel, really. And then mine that recording for bits and pieces that you can pull out of all shapes and sizes, layer it together, try it with different instrumentation, and have fun with it. So my name is Luke Stark. You've been watching Synth Seeker. I'll talk to you later.